Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline and my today's guest is Jim Carlough. And I'm so happy that he said yes to our interview. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Caroline. I am so excited to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. I would like to introduce you to the audience, of course. With over 30 years of experience, you are a business strategist, speaker, and author specializing in leadership development and organizational growth. In your book, The 6 Pillars of Effective Leadership as a learned skill, helping individuals and teams thrive. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast. Wow, Jim Carlough. Carlough, right? Yes. Yes, I can practice this a little bit. And my first question for you is, you believe that leaders aren't born but developed. What's the biggest mind?
So the biggest thing with regard to that, I often heard growing up that leaders were born leaders. And while genetically that may be somewhat persistent with some,
Mhm.
can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yes.
That may be consistent with some scientific evidence. However, I'm a perfect example. No one in my family was a leader of an organization or a group of people or whatever. I come from a family with many years background or generational background in carpentry, masonry, things of that nature. Um, I entered the business world out of college and was blessed with having some great mentors and managers who helped promote me and help me learn things about leadership. So I'm a perfect example of someone who has developed their own leadership style out of many years of working with some great leaders alongside of me. And so I believe leaders are developed. I also believe that leadership is a never ending journey. It doesn't stop tomorrow or after you read somebody's book. It only just starts and continues. That's number one. Number two, I also believe if you're a leader, it's a 24/7 job. It's not something that starts when you sit down at your desk. It actually starts when you get out of your car in the parking lot at your office and everybody that you interact with. And so, from that perspective, those are not things that you are genetically predisposed to be able to have as behaviors. It's something that has to be taught and learned.
Oh, I love your answer. Thank you so much. And I never thought of it that way, but it's true. It is a continuous process and it starts. So leadership is always 24/7, you said, because people, or I would say, people are observing the leader. And then it is an example and you have to behave or you have to be in control of your behavior, right?
That is correct. And that's 24/7. And it's funny growing up, my parents always said to just tell us where you're going and what you're doing. And if, but don't worry, we'll always know where you are. And it was very, very true. I used to have a bicycle, and as a teenager, I used to ride it everywhere. And one day I came home about 5 o'clock dinner time, and my dad happened to say, "So what were you doing over on this street in this town?" And I was like, "How'd you know that?" But somebody saw me, and someone happened to say, "Hey, do you know your son's over here?" But people are always looking out for you and watching for you, and so you don't ever you can't underestimate when the camera is on. And I think it's more so true today because everyone is so camera focused, and picking up YouTube things or whatever and recording people that it's a never ending position to have to be on all the time.
So important. Thank you so much for mentioning. And that this reminds me also of the networking aspect. So when your parents were informed where you were, then it is like networking. People are talking with each other.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct.
I love it. Okay, my next question is, what's one of the most common mistakes organizations make when trying to build high-performing teams, and how can they fix it?
I think a lot of organizations and even leaders think that hiring the best people simply produces the best result. That's not true. It will only get you partway there. If you don't have a leader that inspires or provides them support and direction, you won't have a loyal team. And it all starts with integrity. You, leaders today, well, and to me, integrity is non negotiable. My behavior in every situation is always exactly the same. So if you think of a 2-lane road and that line in the middle of the road, I never waver from that line. My decisions are consistent. My decisions are not discriminatory and in a sense of trying to be promoting myself over somebody else or in deliberately hurting another individual, but taking that high road every single time. And I think that's where a lot of leaders fail, because a lot of leaders don't understand the human aspect of managing people and having the ability to be able to create such a strong connection with them that they would follow you anywhere.
Wow, what a great answer. So there were two things in it. First of all, I want to add the word standards, because you mentioned this line in the middle and you are not crossing the line. And then also, I would like to ask, isn't it so it can be an advantage, but also a disadvantage to be predictable?
It's predictable. I once had two employees who were having a disagreement, and they actually were both right. And when I sat down with them, because I heard them kind of arguing in the hallway, I got done and one of them got emotional. And I said, "Did I upset you?" And the response was, "No, but you always do the right thing." And that's the consistency right down the middle of the road. They were just too close to the problem to recognize it and to understand that they were making the problem worse because they weren't really dissecting it to understand that they both were aspects of what both were saying were correct. So ultimately, all I did was help them see the pathway.
Oh, I love that. So would you say you shared your awareness?
I would say share your awareness, be more open-minded. And it's, people, the business world is fairly competitive. And but if everyone's marching to the same common goal to get to the same endpoint, there should be a lot more collaboration and discussion. There shouldn't be such disagreement. There should be positive debate, right? But no one person has all the answers. I don't have all the answers, but I know how to facilitate to get those answers. And I think that's a key.
Yes, that's true. It has to do with confidence as well, and loyalty to the unseen reality, maybe. When you see the vision, you hold the vision, and you can facilitate, as you said. Mhm.
Correct.
I love it. Thank you so much. My next question is, how can leaders navigate transformational change without losing trust and engagement from their teams?
I don't think they can. Um, in order to have effective change, I once worked for an organization where the head person managed by intimidation and then doing what I call rotating the chairs on the Titanic. By moving people in and out of leadership positions, they hid the fact of their own failures or insecurities. And I think what people need to do is, if you're going to undergo organizational change, you really need to have that in a collaborative effort. People know what works and what doesn't work. And soliciting their input into that process is very, very important for two reasons. Number one, you're going to have the best outcome. But number two, because they're participating in the discussion, they have a vested interest in its success. So they're going to be more apt to support the transformation that you're going to go through.
Yes, absolutely. And I love how you use the word invest, because once you invested in something, then you don't want to release it anymore, maybe.
No, that's correct. That's absolutely correct. You become part of it, right? It's like if you're building a house, that's a part of you, or painting a picture, that's a part of you. It's no different than building an organization. The people that are involved in it, it's exciting for them to have the ability to help build it. But if someone just comes in and hands out a piece of paper and says, okay, look, we're changing the world tomorrow. Here's what it's going to look like. And you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And the people are sitting there saying, well, wait, I didn't do that yesterday. How am I going to do that tomorrow? Why didn't you ask me what might be a better way to do it? And so I think inclusion and collaboration is a far better approach for, especially for transformation. I often say it's not change management, it's manage change. So figure out a way to manage that process in collaboration with your team and the resources that are available to you to be much more successful at it in the end run.
I love it. Thank you so much. And I could also add the words to adjust and pivot when it's necessary, because sometimes people are afraid of change, right?
People are very afraid of change. People get very used to their routine, and change. The three most stressful things in life are changing relationships, changing jobs, and changing jobs or positions, and moving, right? So that's a very emotional and stressful time for people, and having to support them through that change process is critical.
Yes. What a great answer. Thank you so much. And it all takes a decision, or like the name of the podcast, Inspired Choice. We make choices every day, and sometimes they are big and they can be small as well. So what would you say if someone starts new in a company and wants to, or aims for a leadership position? What can they do?
One of the things that I often suggest, now everybody has a manager that they report to, but I always suggest that if you want to become a leader in an organization, find another leader in another area that you've been introduced to that you admire, and ask them to be your mentor. They've obviously been there before you. They know some of the struggles and challenges of the organization. They know the role that you may be in. And having someone to be able to talk to, not to just give you input, but to help guide you through situations, I think is critical. So I'm a huge proponent of mentors and mentoring. I mentor today probably 15 to 20 people, one of which I've done for one person for 25 years. And we have a great relationship that whenever he's in a situation with regard to mostly work, not his personal life, he'll call me and say, hey, I've never seen something like this before. What are your thoughts? And we'll talk through it and work through it. But I think it's very, very important in the business world to have a mentor. It's no different than in the outside world, with mental health issues. People need someone that they can talk to about it, and oftentimes they're afraid. But I think being afraid causes people not to reach out and find help, which causes a deeper problem. And I think that's what a mentor provides for you. It's a little bit more of a psychological support venue to be able to go to, whether to vent or to ask ideas of.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. And I would like to know about your own coaches and mentors. Do you have coaches for yourself? And who is the best coach you ever had?
Oh, that's a tough one. I've always had different mentors during my career, only because as I've progressed and moved, I have tried to find people that can help me with the role that I'm now in. I unfortunately can't pick one. There are probably a couple of people. I would say there's a gentleman, Mike, that was a mentor and manager of mine for a while when I worked at Perot Systems. He was a fabulous mentor. We actually worked together, and he became my mentor over time, even post my time at Perot Systems. I think back when I was in the insurance industry, there's probably 2 or 3 people that served as mentors for me and helped guide me through that. So there's always someone. There's always someone. And they all add their own little nuances to things, which is what helps me evolve.
Yes, that's so true. For me, it's the podcast. And in every episode, I learned so much. Thank you so much. It's like a mastermind, 15 to 20 minutes. Then we connect our minds and create something new. It's this podcast episode. And I would like to know, where can we find you when people reach out to you after listening to this episode?
There's several ways that people can reach me. They can reach me on LinkedIn, that's just by searching for my name. I have my own website. It's www.jimcarlough, JimCarlough.com, or they can call me. It's an American number, area code 972-838-0060. Anybody has questions with regard to leadership or anything that they think I can help them with, I'd be glad to talk to them.
I love it. Thank you so much. Please reach out to Jim. He's amazing. He shares his knowledge and wisdom, not only about leadership. I think there are so many other topics we could talk about. And I have one last question for you. It is about your goals. Do you set goals for yourself or intentions? And what is one of your next projects?
Oh, one of my next projects. So my biggest project in the last decade was writing a book. And that came out in December, which is what we've, in essence, been talking around with regard to the characteristics. For my next project, I want to focus more on taking that message on the road to corporations, universities, and trade shows and conferences. That's kind of the ultimate goal with it. I felt the timing was right. I see a lot of young leaders today, or even experienced leaders today, not having a framework for which to develop and learn by. And I think I have the start of the answer of that. Again, it's a never-ending journey. So I talk about 6 pillars, but I started with 15 or 20 pillars and said that's way too many for somebody to think about. You got to start with round 1, and I narrowed it down to the most important 6. So I think the next journey is, what are the next 6 and how can I help people further along?
I love it. Thank you so much. Yes, and also for our interview. Now is time for your final thoughts to the audience, please.
My final close. Well, I want to thank you especially for the time today, Caroline. I really, truly appreciated the opportunity. I appreciated your questions. Actually, your questions were very different than some of the other questions I've received before. So it made me think, which I absolutely love. It's not a scripted event. So I applaud you for your effort. So today it's for you. So thank you.
Oh my goodness, I'm so honored now and blessed. Thank you so much. Wow. And I see you, of course, in the next episode.